Good afternoon and welcome to our next session. My name is Preston Faribault from Aspire Metal Designs. I'm also a member of the Mayor's Maker Council. I'm happy to introduce Bob Camp from Campcast as he takes us to the next level in our business strategies. Bob, we're glad you're here.
Hey, thank you for the introduction, and everyone, I'm excited to be here. And what I want to say, I wish that there would have been something like this around when I was young and trying to get started in business and doing different things, because there's so much knowledge here that you've already heard this morning. Hopefully I can impart a few more things to you. And as I was saying to someone earlier, I've been at this for 40 some years, and there's some successes. There's a lot of scar tissue. And so what I hope to do is kind of point you on the paths that I've learned. So I'm going to pull up a presentation here. This is the Maker City Growth Workshop 201. What that means is, again, I just have a lot of scar tissue. I've been doing this for a few years. What I do want to share with you are some growth strategies, but why participate in this session? I'm going to go through that a little bit, how metrics help your business grow. We're going to talk about the 5 stages of business and where to focus at each stage. We're going to identify what will change the trajectory of your business. That's a question I have for you, and we're going to talk through that. And then a systemic approach to unlock growth. And then something's called the OPMM framework for goal achieving. One, why participate in this business? I just want to share with everyone, I've been doing this for a long time. Lessons from stepping into the challenge. I've done turnarounds, startups, pivots, scaling businesses. I have 2 years of technical school. I don't have a degree. But I think the key is that I've followed my passion and have succeeded in several areas. And when I don't follow my passion or things that I'm good at, and that's part of where your passion lies, it's a little more challenging. But I did want to make a couple of points here is that, just like COVID today in the early, I will say late 70s, early 80s, the economy was really bad. I was in Dayton, Ohio, and just to kind of share this with you, I was promoted into, manage a service shop, and the economy was bad. NCR had laid off something like 19 or 20,000 employees. The automotive industry was down, which was a big automotive town. Housing was down. And if you wanted to get a loan, you were going to spend somewhere around 13 to 17% for a home loan, which was really crazy, and business loans were just as bad. But we grew because a big part of this was I had great mentors around me. And this is what you guys have the benefit of today is having these people who have been here, who are doing these things. And I was going to say, just like Austin was saying earlier, people are sharing. And they're sharing what works and sharing, the things to do and don't. And so we're going to go into that a little bit. In the 80s, mid 80s, I was selling during the day and writing software at night. Even though the technical school I went to didn't teach software, that's something I learned to do, something I had a passion for. I've helped companies grow, quickly, or been involved with companies who have grown quickly. So a lot of lessons out of that. I've worked with universities and teaching. And that's a big part of what I'm trying to do today. And so doing speaking and workshops. And so just so that I have a lot of experience here, but I continue to learn. I work with the Entrepreneur Center, I work with the chambers, and in that learning experience keeps me on my toes because my mentors have also continued to learn. And I've had some great mentors in my life, and I think that's an important part of being successful. Just a broad range of experience from big Fortune, 50 companies to, startups to some local companies that are seeing some great success. I just wanted to, the reason why you don't get the slides weren't in, all these slides weren't in the piece today, because I'm always at the last minute, just kind of, as Austin was saying, he kind of gets nervous. I'm not really nervous, but it's like, what do I want to include in this? What I think is appropriate. And so part of this today was listening to our other presenters. And so when we listened to Van, I thought she had a great point. The number one reasons why companies fail is a lack of sales. That's it. and there's other reasons, but that's just number one reason. You don't have enough sales. You don't have enough financial resources to solve your other problems, or to hire people, or to get other things done, to hire an accountant or hire a marketing person. The second she said is marketing is hard work. And this is one of the things I think is really important, is this element of how do you, one, set aside some time to actually put effort into marketing and learn it like you do your craft, like you do your passion. Whether you're an artist, or you're making metal, or making a product that you sell, or selling a service. We're all makers, but we have to market ourselves, and we have to learn marketing. And even though you may outsource marketing, it's important for you to know what works and what doesn't. Allie and Claire, I thought, was absolutely great. The one thing that I can say more than anything else, and I'll make this: progress over perfection. Really important that you all recognize how important progress is. We tend to want to perfect things before we know. And give you an example. In my own life, in around 2007, 2008, I had developed a software product to actually go out and do these organizational wide sales assessments with these large organizations. And because I was so focused on what I thought perfection was, when I first sold it to my first customer, which was a big company, Novartis, when I sold that product to them, what I found was they only wanted about 20% of the functionality that I developed. It means I could have actually spent less money, got it to market sooner, and I could have probably put a few more dollars into actually tweaking the things that made a difference to them. And so that's one of the things about testing, but progress over the perfection. And if I just progressed on getting to the customer, getting their input, and doing things, that would have been much better. The other thing is delegate and outsource. I also found out during that process that it was better for me to actually outsource this to a company. It would have cost me less. And oh, by the way, there was a platform that could be used for everything I wanted to do. It would have, it's a much better platform than I would have ever built. In Austin, kind of cut out of the same cloth as sales and marketing. Take what works and ignore what doesn't. That is such a critical lesson. Sometimes we all get caught up in trying to do everything, but a lot of things just don't work. And so focus on what does. And then this element of being memorable over and over again. And it's about persistence and patience, and just keep doing it. So today you're going to hear some similar things from me, maybe from some different perspectives. I bring different experiences, but maybe something will resonate and change the trajectory of your business. And that's what you want to do. That's the reason why you want to listen to a lot of people. And that's the reason why, voracious readers will find the common threads. So let's get into this, and I will get into chat. So I can see what's going on. Number one, I want to start with this kind of piece as we're going through this. This is the acronym for CAMP. This came up many, many years ago when I was young, just trying to figure out when I was getting people reporting to me. I wanted to come up with an acronym, something to remember. That's when we think about, vision, mission, and strategy. Is it something that somebody can remember? And then just repeat it over and over again. So part of this is communicate the vision, communicate your purpose, communicate your plan, making sure people are hearing this, and the key is you're trying to get people engaged, but you have to be engaged yourself. So communicate, act and adjust to a plan. I've heard several people today to talk about measuring. It's really important that you pay attention. So have a plan, follow that plan, and then pay attention to whether or not it's working. And it's not usually an overhaul, but usually a tweak. So it's an adjustment to the plan. And so I really want to emphasize that piece. Multiply the successes. We often get caught up in something's working and we think that we're going to go do something new. Make sure that that's working put more effort into it. You can add something later, but don't lose sight of, if it's working, do more of it versus just trying to do something different. And this is why measuring is important. Measuring what's important is important. One of the people we worked with this year at the Entrepreneur Center, what I loved about what she was doing was that she tracked, was it her email campaigns? Was it her webinars? Was it her direct reach outs? Was it attending events, virtual events? Which ones were generating the most revenue for her, right? The leads and the revenue that followed. And that was a critical piece, in that she saw, in her particular case, people were getting burnt out from Zoom meetings. She was able to step back and go, I'm just going to stop Zoom, these webinars right now, and I'm just going to focus on these other events that people are doing and my direct reach out. And her business just continued climbing up, even though that one area wasn't working for now. It'll probably work again, but it wasn't working for now. And it's about, measuring what she was doing. And the other is stay on purpose. Why are you doing this? And your purpose can be a wide range of reasons. It could be, I need to feed my family. It can be, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about what effect I can have on society. I'm doing this because I just love creating. What's that purpose? And there's this element of persistence. You got to persist at those things that make a difference, and you got to practice those things. And just like, I think, again, Van said, marketing is hard. You're an artist, you're a product creator, you're a service provider, whatever it is that you do, you've gotten good because you put practice into it. Marketing and sales are the same things. Business management are the same things. You got to take a look at these things. I've got to put to practice to become knowledgeable and skilled at it. There's three things that I think every organization or every person needs to know. And we just need to ingrain these things into our thinking. One is that we're always capable of growing faster than we are today. We can. I have yet to run into an organization who hasn't been able to grow faster than they were, or to grow by more. And the other is that the cost to serve, is basically what's it cost you to get that, to do that. How efficient is your business? How effective are you at winning clients, building products, delivering products? How, so that cost to serve. So improving profitability. I know a lot of companies whose revenues are good, but their profitabilities are not. And so there's some things that we're going to talk about how to work on these things a little bit too. But growth is a really important piece. One of my early mentors, John Naples, shared with me. I'll give this story. This is in the late 70s. After he promoted me, he calls me up one day and he says, "Bob, you got to get your revenues up." And I said, "John, you've been reading the papers, watch the news." It's all before the internet. I said, we've got double-digit unemployment. We have, double-digit interest rates. We have, everything sucks. And he goes, "Bob, you don't understand. If you don't get your revenues up, you're going to have to fire somebody, not lay them off, but he said, fire somebody. But what John did is he surrounded me with some people to help me figure out how to do this. And so he really focused on, as long as your revenues are growing and you can improve and they're profitable revenues that you're adding, you have time to fix your problems, your sins. If you don't have time. And that's what Van talked about earlier, was that, the biggest problem for companies and individuals is that they run out of income. That's the reason why they have to go take a job. That's why they have to go change and do something different. That's why they go broke. Income is so important. And a lot of people think that having an income is morally wrong. However, if you have more income, you can create more jobs for people, possibly, if that's what you want to do, or you have more money to give to the things that or to the organizations that you want to give money to. So, having more money isn't the crime. The crime is what you do with the money. So we want to focus on income and revenue, specifically income. The second is, I have a little different slant on the 10-year, 5-year piece, I really break it down this way. And this is, again, just based upon my experience, is that I challenge my clients to think about 15 years out. And this is the CEOs. These are the people who started the business. These are the people who are looking at this and saying, well, where do you want to be in 15 years? What do you want your life to be like? And I want you to imagine that. And so, I mean, if you take a moment right now, I want you to really sit back and imagine, what would your life be like in 15 years if all the things happen that you want to happen? I'm 66 years old. Last year at 65, I'm sitting back going, well, what do I want life to be like when I'm 80? And I still want people to call me up and, chat with me about business, chat with me about life. I want to be able to look out my back window and see my trees and jump on my treadmill and walk and listen to some music, pick up my guitar and play, have a wonderful breakfast with my wife. These are the things that I want you to think about. What's your true north? One of the things I want to be able to look back on is that I've helped all these companies grow. I've helped people have better lives. I've helped my community prosper. Those are the things you look at for this, where do you want to be in 15 years? The other thing that I've found is that within 3 years, and I've experienced this several times, companies can radically transform who they are. And we're going to talk about that process in a little while, but you can radically transform who you are. As an example, maybe today you're making ties. So in 3 years, you could be a full manufacturer of apparel. You could have an organization. You could, if you don't have, maybe you have a manufacturing plant and what you do is design, or you have a design team. It's amazing what you can accomplish in 3 years if you focus on what needs to come next. What's the next step? How do you, how do you determine what's most important to do? And then how do you get it done? So we're going to kind of walk through some pieces there. But the other piece is 12 weeks. I've learned this, of looking at 12 weeks. What's the best few and to do now, and how are we going to get it done? That's where we're really focused on. The how is in the next 12 weeks. But there's a lot of neuroscience that has come out that actually identifies that, having 12-week goals and objectives that you can make significant improvement on, if not absolutely achieve, are better than having year-long objectives. And one of the reasons is that in 12 weeks, you can actually look on the calendar and say, okay, here's what I need to do week to week. What happens when people start putting these goals out for a year or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, when they really start setting these goals out, by not breaking it down into 12-week groups, they tend to delay. I'll get to it next week, which then becomes next month, which then becomes next quarter, which now becomes too late. And so it's really important that we have something that we can accomplish over the next 12 weeks. And we'll get into the weeks and days a little bit later. The third, and I apologize for this chart, and you guys do have a handout. I'm going to hide my face right here. I want to go through this chart just a little bit here because it's really important to know where you are in your business. I've been fortunate to work with companies in all these areas, and with companies in all these areas, and what the urgent is, right? What are the key things that need to be done, and what are the things they need to be focused on is really different at the stage. And so, some of you out there have an idea. It's new. Maybe you have a little bit of revenue, but it's not enough to sustain you. A big key part of this is that, from an activity standpoint, it's about validating. Is your product actually something that somebody wants? Can you tweak it, right? Or do you need to reinvent it? Do you need to pivot? So you're looking for the market fit position, and how are you going to monetize it? So that's the strategic challenge. Prescription is introducing and validating ideas, opportunities with a target market. Your systems are really about the validation. It's really, are you trying to validate that there's a market and you know where that market is at? So that's a really key piece. And so that's what you're trying to learn in this process. If we get to the startup space, and a lot of companies are in startup much longer than they think, but when you think about sales are inconsistent and marketing is sporadic, you're wearing many hats. There's trial and error, with, are normal. Cash and resources are often constrained. You're still in a startup mode. I've worked with companies that are, $20 million in size, still in startup mode because of these challenges. Yeah, they have heavy demand for their product, but they haven't figured out to get to the next level. And so if you go through this, I think the key piece is what you're trying to do is understand, your market intel. How do customers buy? When I first took over this service manager's job in Dayton, Ohio, one of my customers, Omar Smith, I remember him. He was an old gray-haired guy, pinstripe suit, white shirt, bold, one of these power tie guys. I remember sitting down in front of his desk, and he looks at me and he says, "Bob, you don't know how to sell, do you?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "You know how to write a proposal either?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, let me tell you how I want to buy." And that was a powerful statement that really affected me for the rest of my life. He told me not just the process of buying, but what was important to him about the relationship that we had, and it was really valuable because I went and approached every client after that with this intention of what's in their best interest, how do they buy, what's their formal process, what's the informal process. I was really trying to learn all these things, and it pays. You build relationships with your clients, whether you're dealing with a consumer or a business. You build relationship with your clients when you know how and why they want to buy. And it's a critical part of your marketing and sales efforts. And so a few years later, the economy was still pretty bad. It was starting to turn a little bit. Omar calls me up and says, "Bob, I know the economy is still tough. You got a great organization, great people there. If you're going to have to maybe cut some jobs, we've got some work. I could send you some budget." I was fortunate and I didn't need it. And so I told him that. That paid off twofold. I didn't need to go do work because my people were busy. I couldn't get any more work done. But when I did go to him and say, "We recommend that you do this," he really didn't ask any questions because he knew we had his best interest at mind. And I want to say, when you look at these stages, you can't go from one and skip the next. You're going to have to go through each. So the next one is manage up. And one of the things about manage up is that this is where you have built a management team, and what you're doing is you're managing up to the capacity and the skills and competencies of the people, but it's still dependent upon the people doing the work, right? And it's dependent upon their own, ability, their own decisions. It's really, everything has to flow through those people. And so, the strategic challenge at this point in time is differentiation in the marketplace, developing organizational and operational competencies. One of the biggest challenges here is sustaining strategy, focusing on time, systematizing operations, and repeatable and predictability. So as an example, one of the companies I've worked for, in 4 years, we were a staff augmentation business doing consulting services as well. We grew from $8 to $90 million in 4 years. The only way we were able to do that was we systemized hiring. We systemized how we, did our marketing. We systemized how we did sales. We created disciplines and systems around everything that we did, which allowed us to happen. We did that in the manage up stage. So that when we moved to this, the scale up stage, we were able to scale quickly, scale smartly, and learn through the process. And so, I know there might be somebody out here today who's looking at scaling up. This is one of the areas where you got to have your processes and disciplines really intact and focus on. And then ultimately where we all want to be is in the lead up stage. I did work for a company who was in that space. I've worked with a client also in that space where they were the leaders in the market space. And so when you're the leader, everybody has your back. And it's in their sights, right? They don't have your back. It's in their sights. And so your focus, focuses on trends. and you're looking at trying to figure out how do you stay ahead of the competition. So you're paying to the market and paying attention to the market, and you don't rest on your laurels. And that's something I learned in that first job too. Was I had a sign on the back of my door that said, "Being the best today won't be good enough for tomorrow." So you have to pay attention to what's working and what's not working. So I was going to ask, are there any questions before I move on to this next piece here? I think we'll wait till a little bit later. We'll just keep moving, and then we'll open it up, I guess, formal. Steps to take to optimize return on effort. So a little bit what just a different term that I use that Austin said. He talked about return on your time, ROT. I also think about effort, because sometimes your time doesn't stop when the clock stops. You're thinking about other things after hours. So we really want to focus on return on effort. Let's use the stool analogy again. I have questions for you all right now. I'm going to ask this question. You can put it in chat if you want to. When we get here, what will change the trajectory of your business? And what I want to share are 3 pillars that I found that are important. One, as we said, monetize your market. How are you going to grow your business? We're going to talk about where to find clients in a few minutes, and what do you need to know about your clients and your deals. But how do you monetize? Do you have a plan on how you're going to monetize the business? Does that plan include, who are your ideal clients? Where do their eyes and ears land? How you're going to market to them? Those are the kind of things we want to be looking at. And so optimizing the organization. And this can be, if you're a solopreneur, what systems can you use? What tools can you use that will automate or save you time? And again, the key here is, can it save you time or give you data that helps you make better decisions? So what can you do to optimize your organization personally? Or can you outsource, outsource your finance, outsource, of course, I believe that whenever you outsource, you need to know enough to ask great questions. That's the reason why you need to interview and really understand what you're trying to do, and making sure that the people are doing what you need them to do. Outsource writing, even outsource product development. I know one organization here that we worked with, the Entrepreneur Center, who decided to create a cream. And what they did was, they identified what they needed the cream to be and what ingredients they needed to have in it. They sent it to a product development person, a scientist, to actually create it. They outsourced the manufacturing. And today, I think this year, they're only a few years old, but this year they're going to do over $2 million in revenue on Amazon. And the same thing with the marketing. They made their focus on understanding the marketing efforts. And so they are a local maker who's really, I think, kicking it. And then impactful innovation. And I'm going to talk about innovation only from the standpoint is developing a product is innovative, but also how you approach the market, taking an innovative approach to the market. How do you stand out? How do you become memorable? Do something that maybe someone else has done in a different industry, but it might work in your industry. So, just opening up your eyes and ears to see what's working out there. Surrounding yourself with people who think differently than you do. It's really, really valuable. That's the reason why I love working with, this organization, working with the Entrepreneur Center, Propel Group at the Chamber, bringing different people and different ideas together. It's amazing what you can learn when someone else shares what has worked for them and what hasn't. So innovation from that standpoint. Now I'm going to ask you guys to get my in the handouts. If you don't have the handouts out, or just pull up on your screen a page or a piece of paper. I want you to. I'm going to ask some questions here. I'm going to ask you to really think about your business at this moment. Uh, on the left-hand side at the top, all I want you to do is identify kind of these key outcomes. One, what are your current revenues? Two, what is your biggest time waster or what consumes most of your time? I won't say it's waste, but what consumes most of your time? Or what about time is your biggest challenge? So is it bringing a product to market? Is it finding the time to, do marketing? So what is your biggest time challenge? And the third is quality. These are the only three measures that really matter as far as when it comes to outcome. Dollars, time, and quality. So quality can be, do you have a product quality issue? Do you have a quality issue with your, somebody you've outsourced business to? Is there a quality of life issue? So what are your biggest challenges in these areas from a revenue, income, time, quality? So if you guys could just put, just thank you. Not enough time. Alex, thank you. So what are those biggest challenges? Then on the right side, I want you to take, a line for revenue, and I want you to put a number that you want to achieve at the end of 2021. And let me offer this up. I love what a great coach said one time was, if you're able to do this by yourself, then it isn't big enough. Oftentimes we just take a look at it, and I believe in big goals, not necessarily ones you don't think are achievable, but they are a reach, they are a stretch, and they need to be a stretch beyond what you think is comfortable. So put a number out there for 2021, which is a bit beyond comfortable for you. You kind of go, how do I get there? And the reason why I say this is that when you put a bigger goal together, one of the things you want to do is ask different questions, and you will start asking different questions about how am I going to achieve it? If you put a goal out there and says, I need to make $50,000 more this year, well, you're going to ask a different question than when you say, I need to make $150,000 more, or I need to make $1 million more. It's a different question, and you will get different answers. So put that out there. Do the same thing with time. If you're working 80 hours a week, maybe your question is, how do I find resources, right? So, how do I get to less than 60 hours a week? Now, if you're only working 20 hours a week, maybe you figure out, how am I going to be able to work on this full time? If you're doing it as a side job right now, how am I going to be able to do this full time? And if there's a quality issue, I want you to, identify the outcome. What do you want that quality to be? And so when we look at this, we want to take a look at, and I'll call them processes right now, or functions, however you want to describe it in your business. What are the key processes or function in your business that needs to operate well for you to achieve your financial, time, and qualitative goals? Is it marketing, right? Is it, I need to do marketing, sales? I don't want to confuse marketing with sales. I equate marketing as ways to get people to you. Sales is your ability to actually close and win the business. And I think everyone, if you don't know sales, you need to be spending time learning sales and learning it well. And the same thing with marketing, because ultimately it's your ability to win clients. And then when they come to you, if you've done the right things, it's going to be an easy sell. But in the sales process, you're also learning about how they want to buy and why they buy. And that's one of the most important parts about the sales process. How are you serving them? This other space, I'll go over to people. Who are the people that if you were to add into your life, your organization, would help you get better at business, introduce you to people that you need to know, to mentor you, to, do your accounting, to produce your products for you. Who are those people? I'm a believer of knowing what your ideal deal or contract, what it is that you want, because that's what you're selling. As an example, if you're selling individual products, maybe you want people to order multiples. Maybe you want clients to have a lifetime value where they're buying them every month. That'll help identify who's your ideal consumer, the market that you're chasing, the company, the industry, but also who's the ideal decision maker. As an example, if you're selling, a product, the person that it's been given to, such as a child, it may be the mother or the father who's buying. So who's your ideal, decision maker and buyer and influencer? It's important to know that. I want to walk through real quick why the OPMM piece is important. Identify what your outcomes are, what purpose you fulfill with those outcomes. Brainstorm the methods. These are all the possible ways that you can get that done, but you're going to identify the one or two or three things that make a difference. And then how are you going to measure your progress in that? So just a quick one on that. And then a big important piece that John Naples taught me, my first mentor, was strategy. Take the time to do what is most important. And so only focus on one strategic initiative at a time. And what he taught me was over 3 years, and we can accomplish a lot in 3 years. Most people struggle in 3 years. They're still doing the same thing 3 years later. But the key is that you have 12 quarters. And if each 12 weeks, right, at 13 weeks, and but each 12 weeks, if you take and do something that's going to change the trajectory of your business, such as invest in marketing, really learn marketing and do it, such as, I'm going to figure out a way to do our finances or find a partner to develop my products for me or manufacture my product for me. Take that time to do those. And it might take more than one quarter, but it's amazing how much you can accomplish over 3 years. The next thing is doing a bi-weekly StratX review. What are you doing on your strategic initiatives? You have 26 opportunities. This is not about your day-to-day problems, but setting aside time to actually review every other week. It's about how do you make improvement? What's happening with your strategic initiative? Corrective measures needed. Celebration. Celebrate the successes. We do too little of that when we are running so hard and charging. And then what are your lessons learned? And then something that John taught me was just simply doing weekly and daily. Just review, reflect and refine. And so that's that. And then I'm going to recommend a couple of books. One is, it's an old book, The Discipline of Market Leaders. That's really to help is what you're doing about customer intimacy, is about driving the lowest cost, or is about driving new and innovative ideas. Kind of helps you understand where do you play in the marketing space. 4 Disciplines of Execution. You want to improve a business? 4 Disciplines of Execution and Traction are 2 of the best books you're going to find for small business. Practically everything else that I read out there is for big companies and not always applicable because they have big company stories, but these are really good for small businesses. Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer, a local man who is world renowned. You all need to know who this guy is, and you need to read his stuff. It is insightful. He's on top of it. And then probably the best book that I can recommend to every small business person, solopreneur, creator, artist, is The Power of Habit. This is a fantastic book because it really helps you figure out why do you do what you do, and how can you start doing the things that you want to be doing that's going to make a difference in your life. So that's that. Did want to say to everyone, we have coming in November, I'm going to be doing 4 free webinars, absolutely free. Might be more, but I know that I have 4 set up, and it's really geared toward fulfilling my purpose, which is creating $1 billion in growth here in East Tennessee. And the reason behind that is that we create growth, we create jobs in great environments. People work well together. They go home and they have better family relationships, and they have better relationships with their neighbors, and it really helps our community. So that's where we're at, and I think we're ready for Q&A. Okay, any questions, anyone? Thoughts? The local author is Mark Schaefer. That's I think it's Schaefer. What are simple ways to get organized if that's not your go-to? Number one, I think grabbing a piece of paper and just writing down all the things that you think about. And the first thing I do is draw a line through all the things I don't have control over. Because oftentimes we spend a lot of time on that, and that takes up a lot of our organizational thinking. There are some tools out there. Microsoft has a tool called Plan that I've heard people communicate that they like. I use a tool on the Mac called Things. Yeah, but at the end of the day, there's this element of what works for you. And locally, Samantha Lane has something called Origami Day, which is a really simple and I think really makes a lot of sense for solopreneurs. It's a week's worth of what is most important. And because you're keeping it on one piece of paper, you can't add things you're not going to get done. So that's one of the things there that I find helpful. But use your calendar. If certain things have to be done by a certain day, put it on your calendar. But read I should say there's a couple good books out there. The 4-Hour Week is a good one, but just explore. Find someone, and I mean, just say this, find someone who is organized and have them help you get organized and teach you their organization system. And then, like anything else, do more of what works for you and do less of what doesn't. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's a really good point. Some people spend all their time planning and none of their time doing. It's called dreaming. You have to limit the time. It's like doing research. And someone at the Entrepreneur Center really said this well. I think it might have been Jonathan. You need to limit your research, but you need to limit your planning. So as an example, I do believe planning is worth spending a day or two, but I'm going to spend these days planning. And then out of that plan, I'm going to identify what's the 1 or 2 things I'm really going to work on. And I recommend one that you really focus on, and the other things are going to kind of creep in. But what's the one thing you're going to get done and get it done? Build this discipline and success and joy about getting things done. It's too easy to get lost in the planning part. So that's a great one. But limit the amount of time you will actually spend on planning, and catch yourself when you're going back and daydreaming. Excuse me. And set a plan in motion, get it done. Someone once said, start the action that has to be followed up on. So do something that has to be followed up on, and you're going to find some momentum with that. I hope that answered your question. Camp is copyrighted. It's something I developed in the late 70s. It's changed over the years, but yeah, I'm glad you like the system. It has worked. The key is, communicate, act and adjust to a plan. Multiply the successes. I can't say enough about do more of what works, and then measure. And it's one of the things, if you measure it, you're going to find out what works and what isn't. So the StratX screen points, yes, we will add it. I'm gonna go back and show those screens again for you guys. So first, take a screenshot of that. Alex, if you can, I think you were doing that earlier, just take a screenshot for everybody, put it in the chat box. And then I want to say this peek about weekly, daily review. All these are important. This one piece changed my life. My performance, amazing how, I found more balance in my life, because when you go back and review, the week, and reflect on it, and you start finding that I wasted time just doing this stuff that really didn't matter. And the time I wanted to be spending, I wasn't getting because this was eating it up. So reflecting and then being able to refine that. And again, I wasn't saying about changing everything. It's about how do you refine it? Just making tweaks. It's pretty amazing if you just make small, sustainable tweaks, how much things will improve. Whether it's, you're an artist, small tweaks in your technique, and because what does it do to your end product? As a guitarist, a small tweak in the way I hold my guitar makes a difference in my ability to play for longer and better, right? So there's that. Habit is by Charles Duhigg. He's got a couple books. I really like this one, The Power of Habit. He plays some big scale pieces as far as big companies, but he also deals with the actual individual. And so as an example, when you're trying to, break a habit, which is not easy, you really have to redefine a new habit to take its place. But how do you start making that change? And it's these small things that make a difference. So great questions there. Let's see. Yep. And I'll send Alex the rest of this presentation so you guys have it all. So here it is. Time for a break. You all stand up, get a drink. And thank you for bearing with me for this time after lunch. Greatly appreciate it.